imagine you're watching Frasier in like 1997, and it gets to the season finale, and the episode plays out as usual, gets to the end, a couple minutes towards the end. Frasier goes out onto his balcony, and he slips and he falls over the railing, off the edge. And the camera pans down, right the way down, and you see his body on the pavement. And then suddenly there's a flash of light, and he sits back up again, and he's regenerated like on Doctor Who. What actor would you want to see be the second Frasier?
What?
I started thinking about this when I was researching the episodes that we're going to be watching.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking. I got the idea in my head, and I started thinking about it. What if...
Are we talking about from 1997? Or are we
like 1997.
Like,
say, 3 years is pretty standard for...
No, I mean, like, can I pick an actor, a current actor?
I suppose you could pick a current actor now, if someone you really wanted to see playing Frasier.
I don't know. I don't know if there's anyone that could hold up to Kelsey Grammer.
No.
I'm trying to think who I would pick. Have you got an idea?
Well, the reason I started thinking about it is because I have someone in mind who would be perfect.
Okay.
And it's someone who's appears as a guest.
Yeah.
Or as a guest caller in one of these 6 episodes.
I wonder if I can guess who it is.
From the first episode, from Someone to Watch Over Me.
Yeah.
John Lithgow.
You think John Lithgow would play a good Frasier?
I think he'd be a good second Frasier.
Okay.
After Kelsey Grammer left the show for whatever reason. Because John Lithgow was the original choice to play Frasier when the character was introduced on Cheers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was the one they wanted to have. But he didn't want to do it, or he couldn't do it for time reasons or whatever.
God, I don't know. That's a loaded question. I'd go all out. I'd get someone like Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. Jack Nicholson was someone who popped into my head as well.
I think he could...
He'd be really funny.
He could do it. I think he's got the sort of sincerity. He's got the unique look.
Yeah.
But he's got the comedic side as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's not got quite the voice.
He could definitely a very different voice. He could go at the character at a different angle, I think.
Yeah.
It could work.
I'm going to need to ponder on that.
Yeah.
Ponder as we go through these episodes. I'll have a think in the back of my head. Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome back to Le Frères Heureux. We're about to discover our namesake.
Yeah.
We are on the final disc of season 2.
Uh-huh.
And we are about to discover what Le Frères Heureux is all about.
Mm-hmm.
The real name for it,
If you didn't already
know, yeah. We're going to find out what it's really all about, not some crappy podcast by two brothers. As always, I am Fraser.
I'm Euan.
And we're taking you back through the perfect 90s sitcom. More perfecter than all the others.
Yeah.
As I said, we are at the finale of season 2. It seems to have flown by.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Quite quickly.
I'm having a lot of fun.
8 episodes.
Really enjoying it. And you know, I'm discovering a lot of changes in my opinion as well,
mm-hmm.
which I'm quite enjoying.
Yeah.
You know, normally, I can't remember the last time I watched through from start to finish. Probably it's
been a good couple of years for me before we started.
Yeah. And I just stick it on the background and I just work my way through it. But now actually sitting down and watching and examining each episode, it's given me a different perspective, which I think was my initial phrase when we started the podcast.
That's what we're going for.
We would give a bit of a unique perspective on it.
Yeah.
There we go. All about perspective.
It's all about
We're
perspective.
coming full circle. But yeah, this episode's great. This episode rivals season 1's final disc.
Yeah, this run of episodes.
In terms of quality.
Yeah, definitely.
This is a really, really strong disc. And I suspect this might pull up the rating of the rest of the series.
Yeah. On average, season 2 hasn't done quite as well as season 1.
Yeah.
Looking at the numbers on the spreadsheet that I've got, keeping track of all of our ratings.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's kind of, in terms of episodes, there are just as many episodes that are scoring just as high, but I think on average it's not doing quite as well. Okay. But the average it's definitely going to get bumped up.
Yeah.
On my end, at least, because of this last disc.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a spoiler. I've not gone anything below a 3.
Yeah.
For this whole disc. It's a really, really good disc. Really, really enjoyed rewatching it.
Yeah.
But I did have a few changes as well. I thought there was a couple of episodes that I didn't like as much that I've actually given a higher score, and a couple of episodes that I thought I was going to give a higher score to that I've actually put down a little bit. So we'll get through it.
Yeah.
See what you think as well. We kick off with Someone to Watch Over Me. It's the title alludes to Fraser's bodyguard, who is eventually hired after his concerns of a stalker.
Yeah.
A woman named Carrie. American accent, I can't
Yeah,
really
they do.
tell.
They pronounce it Corey, which is kind of weird.
So yeah, Carrie has been phoning into the show frequently, gushing over Fraser, letting him know how wonderful he is, how great a psychiatrist he is. But things take a little bit of a turn when she phones in and sort of alludes to having seen him and having knowledge of his routine.
Yeah.
Which
Very
is a little
creepy.
bit spooky. And this coincides with their Fraser and Roz's nomination for another CB. We had the first season episode all about the CBs with what's his name? Oh god, I should know this. Do you know it?
Fletcher Gray.
Fletcher Gray, thank you.
The class act, Fletcher Gray.
Class act, indeed.
Yeah. CB episodes do really become like I mean, there's maybe not one every year, but
I think there's all but one or two seasons.
There's easily 8 or 9 of them across the run of the show.
Yeah, there is definitely quite a few from here on out. Well, from the first season on out.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're nominated for a second CB in a row. Roz is very excited because I think last year was the first time she was ever nominated.
Yeah.
So to get 2 in a row was pretty big deal. Fraser's obviously excited. It's his first couple of years in the radio game.
Yep.
Nominated twice. And yeah, it's all about dealing with stalkers and obsessed fans.
Yeah.
It's got quite a...
Pretty wild.
It's a bit off-piste.
As far as plots go, it's one of the more out there ones.
It's a little bit sinister
in this season.
In places. The sort of tone that it gives. There's
definitely a few bits of comedy that's a lot darker than what we've seen so far.
Yeah.
There's probably more of that later on, but it's certainly the darkest comedy that I think we've seen up to this point.
Yeah.
But there's some great lines, some great dialogues, I think.
It is good.
I think it's a fantastic episode.
I think it is. This was the one that was bumped up in my rating. I generally don't care for it too much, but rewatching it is actually very funny.
Yeah.
But we'll go through it. The episode starts, there's a great little moment with Bulldog. They get the nomination. Roz comes running into the office after Fraser's preaching to one of his callers about keeping focus.
Yeah.
And Roz comes bursting in, and Fraser's obviously completely distracted by the fact that they've been nominated again. But with Bulldog, he comes in, he's been nominated again, as well.
Yeah.
And what was it? Four wins? No, 4 nominations, 3 wins.
Something like that.
So he's quite highly regarded, and he's talking, you know how Bulldog is, and he says something like, yes, I'm a symbol for excellence in Seattle. And as he says that, there's a female employee outside the door, and he starts barking at her. It's like, oh no!
Bulldog's usual
which
method
is classic Bulldog. It's
trying to pick up women.
Obviously, pretty disgusting behaviour.
Of course.
But in the context of Bulldog, it's very funny.
Very
just
funny.
the juxtaposition between
this
symbol of excellence and harassing female employees. It's, yeah. So I love that start. And then we kick off with Carrie phoning in, and she sort of kicks off the whole stalker thing by saying that she'd seen him. Oh no, sorry, he hadn't been following his usual routine because he'd gone to a flower shop for Roz instead of getting coffee.
He bought Roz a flower to celebrate the thing, or in a expectation that they were going to be nominated. Yeah. So she notices he wasn't at Cafe Nervosa and lets slip that she kind of follows him there every day, which is
pretty unsettling.
Oh, it's very creepy.
Regardless of the whole scenario, if you were genuinely just a fan, excuse me, sir.
What are you whining about?
We're recording a podcast
here. What are you whining about, little man?
Little Harry the dog just thinks he owns the house and can go wherever he likes, whenever other people are busy. Don't you, little friend?
Little man.
Going a little bit off topic, but I watched the one of the featurettes at the end of the DVD, all about Eddie.
Yeah.
So yeah, me and Harry the dog sat and had a little watch, all about Eddie.
Yeah.
It was really lovely actually. Moose had his little introduction. He was sitting on a beach chair, and then John Mahoney was talking about working with Moose, and that was really sweet.
That is sweet.
Yeah,
that was cute.
Right. Anyway, back on track.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, that kind of behavior as a fan is pretty gross.
Yeah.
Regardless if the intentions are pure, that's still over the line. And that's something I made a note of that. Like, I don't want to give too much away about the episode until we get to it, but even if she was, genuinely just a fan and genuinely just cared about him, she needs to know the limit of what you can go to. And I think that's something that there's a big problem with at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The idea of the there's a term for it. It's this kind of like connection that people feel like they have with. I think the internet certainly made it worse.
Yeah, things like social
internet
media.
Personalities, and you have this. You think that they're your friends because you're seeing them put on this friendly persona when it's projected online, but it's completely artificial and it's completely one-sided.
And they're so accessible as well.
Oh yeah,
in terms
definitely.
of you can @tweet any celebrity you want. Not that they're going to respond, but you can, and for some people that obviously feels like an interaction. And this is obviously like the 90s equivalent of that. You know, Fraser's got an accessible public call-in show, so he attracts people that can get in touch with him very, very easily.
Yeah.
So yeah, a little bit sort of parallels on what's the word? I've lost the word.
It's gone. It's never coming back.
Yeah, some unsettling parallels between the 90s and nowadays in terms of interacting with celebrities and popular figures. But yeah, as the episode goes on and it starts to kind of build up a little bit, Fraser gets home and he's celebrating the nomination with everyone. Niles has a great little line. He says, well, you have to remember, Fraser, popularity is the hallmark of mediocrity. Fraser says, oh, you made that up, didn't you? And I was like, yeah, but I stand by it.
Yeah, that's a great... I actually had a note of that as well, because I think that's such a funny line.
I really love that line. So they're celebrating and he opens his briefcase and Carrie has somehow managed to slip a homemade scarf into her briefcase. You're thinking, like, how close and how quick would you have to be to get inside someone's briefcase to drop off a present? Like, that's... Whoa. That is... Fraser, at this point, is still very on the side of the fan.
Yeah.
He's kind of very, she's just a dedicated fan. She just loves me. Everyone else in the family, and I'm including like Daphne and Roz, everyone else is sort of saying like, no, this is creepy. Like, you need to do something.
Oh, definitely.
And he just doesn't seem to take it quite as seriously as he should.
Mm-hmm.
Fraser knows best.
Of course.
I've made that note several times in this disc.
Yeah.
Fraser knows best. He thinks he knows better than everyone else.
He does.
But yeah, they go on, and I think the breaking point is Carrie leaves a note inside his jacket pocket.
Yeah.
So again, has to have been very, very close.
I mean, I don't even know how you could have done that
without noticing. There's no way. But she manages, and it just says like, oh no, it says about the scarf. Oh, I see you aren't wearing my scarf.
Mm-hmm.
The last person who didn't wear my scarf died, or something.
Yeah.
Those lines, which is like, oh my god.
Definitely sounds like a threat.
It does. It does. Absolutely. So stalkerish. And Fraser eventually concedes, like, okay, maybe I do need protection, and hires the lovely Cindy.
Yeah.
I like Cindy a lot. I love her. I love the subversion of expectations that he hires a bodyguard and you're expecting, what he says, like a Dominic or a Rocco or a Ruth.
Yeah.
And he gets this sort of young, petite, very attractive blonde woman who shows she obviously knows what she's doing.
Oh, yeah. More than capable of handling herself.
Absolutely.
As we see when Bulldog makes a pass at her.
When Bulldog comes up. And I love that. And I love the sort of shutting down of Martin's casual sexism. Mm-hmm. Well, Martin and Fraser, I suppose. They were both expecting a male bodyguard. Someone who can kind of stereotypically, very muscly, probably knows what they're doing. Yeah. And she definitely shows them that she is, as you say, more than capable. Niles has a great line here when he gets invited into the flat.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
They're all very paranoid and Fraser shouts, "Oh, who is it?" And Niles is standing outside and he says, "Lizzie Borden, I want you to autograph my hatchet."
That's,
Niles, right.
Hilarious.
I don't know if it's every episode on this disc, but certainly 5 out of 6, at least, Niles has an entrance to Fraser's apartment that is of the highest quality.
Oh, yeah.
So funny. I don't know if it's meant to be a running joke. I don't know if it's like intentional. I've never really thought of that before because he's around so often.
That's true. It's almost like Kramer coming into Jerry's apartment in Seinfeld or whatever.
But his entrances in this one were like of note every single time.
There are now that I think about it. There's several good ones in this disc.
So I'll keep you up to date on them. But so they go the final act of the episode. They go to the award show, the award ceremony where Carrie is said. I think she phoned into the show again, doesn't she? Yeah, she phones back into the show and says something along the lines of, I'll see you there. Mm-hmm. Oh, she phones the flat.
She phones the house, yeah.
Sorry, she phones the flat, yeah. She phones the flat when Cindy is standing outside.
Yeah.
Which gives them a little bit
very
of
conspicuous
added paranoia that she could potentially be the Carrie. And she says she'll be wearing a red dress, I'll see you there, blah, blah, blah. So they go to the award show. Bulldog makes his pass at Cindy. Mm-hmm. She shows why she's a bodyguard.
Yep.
Brings him to his knees very quickly with the lift of a finger. He is very attracted to that. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty attracted to that as well.
Yeah, I like a woman who can kick my ass.
Yep. But basically Fraser freaks out. Fraser has a complete meltdown. He panics that Cindy is actually Carrie in disguise. Mm. He knocks over Mrs. Littlejohn, the head of the nomination committee. Mrs. Littlejohn. He just completely panics. He runs out of the room to go and confront his stalker, as he believes. And Martin, being the class detective that he is, identifies Carrie from across the room. Yeah. Because she's wearing a red dress and because she's wearing a scarf. Yeah. The same same style that she knitted Fraser. And he's able to go and confront her and say, what's going on? And she turns out to be just this innocent young woman. Yeah. Well, innocent old woman. Yep. She's just a little old lady who just happens to love Fraser. And Fraser, unfortunately, does not get to see this conclusion. Instead, he chases what he believes to... Well, I think there is a woman there.
He sees a woman leaving.
He sees a woman leaving through the parking lot.
And decides to follow her into the car park, which now that I think about it is also pretty bad.
Little bit creepy, not great. But he's trying to confront her and he's shouting all kinds of nonsense into the empty parking garage. Saying, like, oh, you're a coward, just come and face me. And out step 3 big burly men who take Fraser's threats to heart.
And rough him up a little.
Yeah, the episode ends, and over the title sequence, we see that they've actually won their first CB. Mm-hmm. Fraser looking very dishevelled, having been beaten up.
Yeah.
And that's that. It's a really good episode.
I think it's a good episode.
Actually, it is very good.
I think so.
We have a great guest caller.
Yes. As I did mention at the start of this episode.
Yeah.
John...
that was in the previous recording, was it not?
No, we'll put it at the start of this. We only talked for a couple of minutes. We'll put it at the start of the episode.
Oh, we did put it at the start of the episode. Oh, no, I'm getting mixed up. We've done so much recording today.
We have.
But not really. I'm just pretending that we're more professional than we are.
That's fine. Yes, John Lithgow calls in as Madman Martinez. It's very funny.
He's one of the best guests. He's one of the most memorable.
I think he's a fantastic actor. I really like John Lithgow. I think he's great. And he plays off that he's really depressed and he's really upset, and then he kind of starts exaggerating more and more and gets really kind of, I suppose, emphatic and starts shouting about how he's in his car showroom dealership. He's slashing prices and he's got whatever Oldsmobile for whatever low price, and it's so funny. And then Fraser cuts him off and says, for our paid commercial messages, winding up, just trying to get free adverts, which is very funny. But yeah, he's great. John Lithgow, and I started thinking about it, actually has a very long running connection with Fraser. As I did mention earlier on, he was the first choice to play Fraser when he was first introduced as a character in Cheers. But he also, the thing that he's possibly most well known for, I think it's probably the thing I knew him from first, before anything else, was Third Rock from the Sun, the sitcom, which started in 96. But he's been in loads of other things before and since. He was in NPR, the radio station, public, whatever, and we don't really get it here, but in the States. They did an audio drama version of Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Okay. And John Lithgow voiced Yoda.
Right, okay.
I don't know why. I just found that really funny. So he did that. He most recently he was in the Pet Sematary remake. He was in Dexter.
He's in How I Met Your Mother.
He voiced Lord Farquaad in Shrek.
He did, yeah.
So he was in loads of things. Anyway, so the thing I knew him most from was Third Rock from the Sun, which started in 96 and went until about 2001, 2002. But over that time, John Lithgow was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, or Best Lead Actor in a Comedy Series, basically every year, as was Kelsey Grammer for Frasier, and they pretty much traded off wins.
Interesting.
They competed with each other for about 6 years, kind of towards the second half of Frasier, and
I didn't know that.
Over Third Rock from the Sun.
I didn't know Third Rock from the Sun was so highly regarded.
Yeah, it's weird that it's a bit of it's not forgotten.
No.
Because people still know of it.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny.
I've seen bits of it. It is good.
I sat and watched it a few years back, and I remember really enjoying it. It's a bit of a shame that it doesn't have quite as much of a following as other things. Maybe in a few years it'll wind up picking up some kind of weird cult following.
We can do a Third Rock from the Sun rewatch.
Third Rock from the Sun podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I thought it was funny having that kind of connection with Frasier. He really does have
a unique tie as well to the show. Well, there you have it. Someone to watch. Someone to watch over me.
Yeah.
Good episode.
Great episode.
Thought it was a lot better than previous times I've watched it.
Yeah.
Talking over it now, I was going to say a 3 out of 5, but I might bump that to a 4.
I gave it a 4.
Did you give it a 4?
I gave it a 4. I think a 4 is deserved. I think it's a really funny episode.
We'll go for 4. I like Niles. I like all the supporting cast in this more than I like Frasier.
Yes. They
all get great moments. We've got Niles with his entrances and basically poking fun at Frasier for being so paranoid.
Yeah.
Same as Martin.
Daphne's
got a great line about the Butcher of Brighton.
Yeah.
She seems like the type who would know all her true crime stuff from England.
Oh, definitely.
But she makes a comparison between Carrie the Stalker and this, I presume, fictional serial killer called the Butcher of Brighton.
Yeah.
Obviously just taking the piss out of like Jack the Ripper and whatnot. And just adds to Frasier's paranoia, I think.
Yeah. See, this is the kind of dark humor I'm talking about. She makes a comment about having a saucer full of eyelids sitting on his
saucer full of, full of
on his end table or something, you know, which is much more grim than the kind of jokes we normally see. And Niles makes a joke about Frasier being strung up from his feet in a linen cupboard with a sponge in his mouth or something. I can't remember. Something
it's
stupid. But there's a few kind of jokes about people getting murdered and stuff like that, which we haven't seen much of.
Yeah. But overall, good episode.
Overall, yeah.
Very good. I think I think a 4 is fair. I think a 4 is definitely fair. It's deserved.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, from someone to watch over me, we're going to Under the Ice. I was trying to tie it in. I was going to go over and then under, but I couldn't. That didn't really land.
You tried?
I tried. That's the part that counts, right?
That is, yeah. Okay. A for effort.
Breaking the Ice.
Breaking the Ice.
It would have been better if it was called Under the Ice.
It would have, but that wouldn't have made any sense.
It wouldn't have made any sense whatsoever. Breaking the Ice is all about Martin desiring to go on his yearly ice fishing trip.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Duke has thrown out his back. The eponymous Duke from
Dukes.
Dukes We Hardly Knew Ye.
Duke from Dukes.
Duke from Dukes, the bar, and from the episode we have seen him.
We do, once. Yeah, we do see him.
I was trying to think, because I couldn't remember whether we actually saw him in this episode, but we don't. We don't even hear his voice, but he's on the phone to Martin. And he does appear later, actually, I think, in one episode. I think it is Duke.
I think there's only the one episode that he's in. I think he's only in Dukes We Hardly Knew.
There's an episode where they're playing poker. And I think,
it might be him.
And I think Duke is one of the guests.
There is, yeah.
I could be wrong.
Now that you say it, there is someone with a mustache who looks similar to...
Yeah, I could be wrong. Yeah. We will get to that. It's a fair bit away, anyway.
Yeah.
And Niles offers to go with Martin. Ostensibly because he wants to bond with Martin, but actually because he just wants to impress Daphne. yeah,
those are the kind of two. He claims that it's because he really likes the idea of going out ice fishing, which he's never going. You know that's not what's going on. But yeah, no, he gets kind of led on to the idea that it might impress Daphne because she says that her brother's friends always used to go out fishing, and they would come back, and I just couldn't wait to pan fry their kippers. There's actually a few really great lines by Daphne in this one.
Yeah.
Later on, Frasier kind of gets in his head. He starts thinking about the fact that Martin has never said "I love you" to them.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
And kind of, this is what then, I suppose it's a similar thing for Niles. It's not exactly the same, but Niles is slightly jealous of the relationship that Frasier now has with Martin since they've been living together. And Frasier has kind of gotten in his head that he's still not as close with Martin as he wants to be. So the two of them are, going out on this ice fishing trip with him. But Frasier starts thinking about it more and more when Martin says, "I love you" to Duke. I love ya, not I love you. There is a distinction. And then also says it to Eddie as well when he's going away and Eddie's kind of whining that he can't come with him. And Frasier says, "Oh, yeah, can you believe that? He said, 'I love you' to the dog, but he won't say 'I love you' to me." And Daphne says, "It's not that strange. I had an aunt that used to say 'Good night, Mr. Vanderpump' to a hat rack."
When I watched this as a kid, that was the funniest.
Sure.
That is hilarious.
I don't it's still funny.
Yeah.
But when I watched it as a kid, that line, I don't even know what it's funny about it. But just the way she says Vanderpump is so funny.
If there's anyone out there who is actually called Mr. Vanderpump, please let us know. Write in. We will get you on. We'll get you on as a guest. I will pay out of pocket to fly you here so we can record together.
Mr. Vanderpump.
Mr. Vanderpump. Yeah, hilarious line, I think.
She has another good line, actually. I can't remember the exact line because I didn't note it down, but I did. I took note of it in the old brain. When Niles and Martin are already going away.
Yep.
Daphne is trying to convince Frasier to go as well, partially because she thinks he's going to miss out, partially because she wants the house to herself for the weekend.
Yeah.
And Fraser says something along the lines of, "Oh, you think I'm going to just go away and do something I despise just to hear the words 'I love you'?" And Daphne turns around and says, "Well, why not? Women have been doing it for centuries." And I just love that.
That is also, that is very funny.
It's a very Roz line.
It is. That's definitely the kind of thing you can imagine Roz saying.
I love that Daphne's got that mindset as well.
Yeah.
It's great. But yeah, I mean, another good episode. Another really good episode. There's a little bit of sort of build up to when they actually go on the excursion.
Yeah.
We've got that introduction with Martin going away with Duke, and then Duke calling in sick. Niles then volunteers. And then we've got a little bit of Fraser unsure whether he wants to go. He kind of doesn't. He definitely doesn't.
Yeah.
But he kind of weighs up whether it's worth it. Just to sort of get some time with Martin and see if he'll say I love you. Niles goes away, does his shopping. He comes in looking like a skinny Elmer Fudd, as Fraser puts it. He's got his
funny
kit on. He's got his woolen hat and his big puffy jacket, and he's got all the fishing supplies, warm buns, microwavable like cushions, to put under their bum. And then when Fraser finally sort of submits and leans into it, the three of them go away on their little trip out to and we get another outside of Seattle set.
Yeah,
this
don't
time
have many of them.
No, I don't have a huge amount. Right on the ice, there's a little hut right on the ice. You know, they say, "Oh, we thought it would be ice adjacent."
Yeah,
but no, it's actually on the frozen lake, which is pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I don't know if I would want to do that.
Yeah.
Open water. I mean, it's a lake, but still, open enough water.
Yeah,
freaks me out. I can't.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it.
I'm the same. I wouldn't like to fall in. Even the minute risk of falling in is enough to put me off. But yeah, and Niles and Martin actually seem to have a pretty good time.
Yeah,
Niles kind of claims he's putting it on a wee bit, but he does kind of get into it.
I think getting into the stuff like that, I think if you get into the spirit of it, you probably enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah.
Fraser is very reluctant to and keeps making jokes and
he's
cracking.
A dick.
He is.
Honestly, he's such a bad sport here.
He's being such a big whiny twat. Yeah. And it's like, I know that Niles says, when he finally admits that the only reason he's doing it is because he wants to spend time with Martin, and he's not really enjoying it that much. He says that he's having a worse time than Fraser because at least Fraser gets to complain.
Yeah.
But I think it really should be realistically, it would be the opposite.
Yeah.
Like if you sit and just try your best to have a good time.
Absolutely.
You're going to enjoy it a lot more. It took them thinking they were going to get stuck out on the ice to break out the whiskey, which was pretty stupid. They probably just should have been drinking all day. That's kind of the whole point of going fishing, isn't it?
Yeah. As soon as you sit down, that's beer's open.
Not something that I do very often, going fishing, or have ever done. But I imagine that's the whole reason to do it, is so that you can just drink outside for a day.
Pretty much. It's a pretty boring sport.
Yeah.
If you can even call it a sport, a hobby.
Yeah. So, yeah, it surprised me a little bit. I think that if they had just sat and just been drinking and taking the piss.
Also, I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to drink whiskey when you're out in the cold. You're not supposed to drink it to warm you up. Is that not a myth? It does something to your blood.
There's something about how I think it thins your blood.
Yeah. So even though it makes you feel warmer.
So you feel warmer, but you're actually more susceptible to the cold, I think.
Something like that. Maybe it's a myth, I don't know. But anyway, they do it anyway.
If you've got warm buns, then you're probably okay.
Yeah. So, they sit and drink and... Well, they've lost their car keys.
Yep.
We didn't say that, but they lost their car keys. Niles drops them out of his hole in his pocket, accidentally, and then accidentally throws them into the big fishing hole in the centre of the shack. So they're all stuck out there for the night. Martin's pretty chill about it. He says, me and Duke got stuck out a few years ago, and we made it fine.
Yeah.
And if two older men, into their, 50s, 60s?
Yeah. I think Martin's supposed to be about 59, 60 at that point.
If they can survive overnight in the freezing cold, I'm pretty sure Niles and Fraser can. But anyway, they're sitting and whining and panicking and whatnot. They sing the drinking song from La Traviata. There's a little spoiler for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine, we recorded that episode before.
Oh, did we? You're going to give it away that we recorded it before?
Well, either that or you've just given me the answer that I'm going to get wrong anyway, so...
Oh, yeah.
I should have paid more attention when I was watching the episode.
Yeah. The magic of editing. Who knows where this will land? And yeah, after a few drinks and songs and whatnot, they all kind of mellow out a wee bit. Martin steps outside and Fraser and Niles kind of have a chat about why they're out there. And Fraser eventually confesses that it's because he wants to hear "I love you."
Yeah.
And it's a little bit solemn. It's not that funny. There's not really much of a laugh track.
No, they do. They have, their moment where they talk about it and they're talking about it with each other, and then Martin comes back and then they tell Martin, and Martin's he's upset about it. And I think Fraser and Niles kind of take it in their stride a lot more because they weren't expecting him to find it funny. So they just continue laughing. Martin actually gets quite upset and he says, it's not that I don't think it or that I don't want to say it. I just can't.
Yeah.
But I think it's, generational thing or like it's a macho thing. He's talked before about how he's gotten made fun of for being emotional when he worked as a cop.
I hadn't thought of that actually, yeah. That's a good point, yeah.
So like he's not in touch with his emotions, or at least he doesn't feel comfortable expressing them.
Yeah.
So he doesn't really feel like he's able to do it.
John Mahoney's acting here, by the way.
Oh, I think it's great.
It's a short little piece from him, but the way he talks about what you just said, about him having emotions, and the way that he talks about Hester, about the brother's mother, his ex-wife. Well, I say ex, his deceased wife. The way he talks about them, you believe it.
Yeah,
100%.
Entirely.
You believe he is a sort of mourning widower, thinking back fondly on his wife who has passed away.
Yeah,
and thinking about she used to give him a bit of a hard time for not saying "I love you." So his John Mahoney is just wonderful, and it's moments like this that you really remember it.
It was actually we just passed. It was on the 2nd, I think. I mean, we're giving away a little bit about when we're recording. It was on the 2nd or the 3rd. That was the anniversary of his death. It was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So
4 years, really?
4 years, yeah.
Jeez.
It does. It really feels like it was recent. I mean, the past couple of years have flown by for a completely different reason.
Yeah, that's true. But...
certainly been very weird. But yeah, it's nice that we're getting to appreciate his acting in an episode like this.
It's timeless. It really is.
Fantastic.
People look back in 50 years, they'll find an old Frasier DVD.
Yeah.
And they'll rewatch it. Hopefully with this podcast by their side.
Of course.
Yeah, and no, I'm just kidding. And they'll see the acting by the whole cast, let's be fair, and they'll all be remembered on very fondly, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There we go. We're getting a bit somber now.
We are.
But no, Martin's speech sort of carries on, and he says, "I love you" to Fraser, and "I love you" to Niles, and it kind of fades out with a little bit of a joke. And the warden, I guess,
I think he's like a park ranger or something.
Park ranger comes in and finds them and gives them a ride to the B&B or whatever it was.
The Bed and Bass Motel.
Bed and Bass. That's right, Bed and Bass. And it's that last little scene is really nice. It sort of ends on a bit of a tongue in cheek,
as you have to. You need to end it in a joke.
But it's really good, and there's a little post-credit as well. Oh, not post-credit, credit sequence, which is really funny with Fraser. Martin comes in first. He's got a big pile of fish. Then Fraser follows, and he's got 1 or 2 fish, and Daphne's greeting them at the door, and then Niles walks in, and he's got one like little sardine. But it's fine. He gets a kiss on the cheek.
Gets a kiss on the cheek, and he swoons a little. Yeah.
But it's it's a really nice episode.
It is.
It's not quite as funny as maybe some of the others on the disc.
No, but I think it has the kind of emotional weight behind it.
It's got a nice bit of heart to it,
Yeah.
Especially anything with Martin and sort of exploring his character more. We love that.
Definitely.
We love that. So what did you give it then in the end?
I gave it another 4.
Another 4?
Another 4.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I noted down 3, but on virtue of John Mahoney's acting alone, the more I think about it, I think I'm going to bump that up.
Certainly deserved, I think.
That's the second bump up I'll give it. I've kind of reconsidered on the fly what I'm going to give it. But no, I think 4 is deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go 4. Solid 4.
Go with 4.
Comfortable with that. The next episode.
Yes.
One of the best.
Yeah.
One of the funniest.
We did... I think we talked about this in our last episode, or at least very briefly.
Was it the last episode? Yeah.
This episode, and I'll since it's getting towards the end of the season, I will talk about it more later on. But this episode was nominated and won the Outstanding Writing
Did it win?
Emmy.
Not surprised.
Not surprising at all.
Not
I think it's possibly the best written, like the dialogue and the way that the story unfolds and everything. The writing in this episode is just absolutely perfect.
The writing is, the writing in the show is great. Majority of episodes have a lot of great, one-liners, snappy comebacks, whatnot. This episode's on another level. Yeah. It really, really is. It's absolutely phenomenal.
The way the humor is framed and... there's a big scene that centers around it, but the way that it uses like different languages is hilarious. I have said before that, I mean, it's not something that we see a lot of in this episode, but Niles, or Fraser and Niles both, anytime they say something in a foreign language, it's really funny.
It is. Yeah,
it's great. It's just, they just need to say something in another language and it cracks me up.
Well, let's go through it. Rather than giving an overview, let's just go through this episode the way we used to do it back in season 1.
Yeah,
run through it bit by bit, scene by scene, rather than giving you an overview. So it starts with it sort of kicks straight off, goes right into the plot. Fraser gets a phone call from a woman named Gretchen, a Bavarian lady, German-speaking Bavarian lady.
Yeah. Oh, she's Austrian. She does say later on she's Austrian, but then lived in Bavaria and has now moved to Seattle.
Okay. Oh. Anyway, who's concerned about her husband having an affair with a wealthy new student. Her husband's a fencing instructor and has taken on a new student, a new private client, and she's concerned that they're spending too much time together, that their late nights and whatnot are culminating in something a bit more than just training.
Yeah.
Raw just jumps right in with her sort of savvy on the street knowledge.
Yeah.
On the street? Streetwise?
Streetwise.
Streetwise is probably a better phrase. Streetwise knowledge. And gives Gretchen pretty good advice. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's decent.
It is good advice, I think.
She says to offer Gretchen to offer her husband 2 plates for dinner. One sort of calorie-packed, fatty meal, and one very, very light dietary, and if he picks that, he's trying to watch his figure, and he's trying to impress someone, basically. Whereas if he picks the fatty meal, he doesn't mind, what is it she said? Doesn't mind growing into a bloated pig, and he's happily married, and you're in the clear.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I get the sentiment behind it, but there's different reasons for people to be dieting.
I mean, he is an athlete. Do they not say that he was like a former Olympic fencer or something? Like, so it makes sense that he would probably have a very healthy diet.
Yeah.
But no, I think it is true to an extent that like once you're married, you're much more likely to give up a bit on eating healthily.
I guess a little bit depressing, but
it is. No, but I think it's certainly it comes from a place of truth.
Yeah, stereotypical truth. But anyway, they don't really think much of it, and that's, it's just another call for the day. Fraser heads home. Niles has popped round, and they're building a 3-masted schooner, a little model boat kit, ship, schooner, which quickly becomes a 2-masted schooner after Daphne makes a comment about having an ancestor who was a mutineer on the HMS Bounty.
Yeah.
Which is just
It
such
is
an
really
outlandish claim.
Yeah.
But anyway, and mentions that she may well have a distant relative living in the South Seas, bare-breasted and tan skin, and Niles snaps one of the
masts.
one of the pieces, the mast that he's holding, so it becomes a two-masted schooner. And I love that little scene.
It is really funny. When they start arguing about the different kinds of ship, they start talking about. So they say it's a schooner, and what is it? Daphne says, "Oh no, I thought," because presumably what they're building is a model of the Bounty. I'm guessing is why it came up, or maybe it's just a ship or whatever thing. But Daphne says, "I thought it was a frigate." And then Niles says, "No, a frigate has a fore and aft mainsail or something."
Yeah.
And she says, "No, that's brigantine." And Niles says, "Oh, well, what's a frigate then?" And Martin says, "It's when you just don't give a damn anymore." And he gets up and walks away.
Leaves, yeah,
watching that, I thought, that's quite a dumb joke. It's quite a laboured setup to the joke, but I think that kind of writing shows the quality of the writing behind it, I think, in a way. I don't really know how to explain it.
The acting?
No, the writing. I think the setup for that joke, I think, is very well written. It is maybe a bit laboured, but it's definitely quite a clever setup.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. No, I thought you meant, and I was going to say as well, the way that they play it off, the way the actors play it off as well.
Yeah. It
just sort of extends that phenomenal writing.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. But yeah, and I completely agree. It's a great little scene. But Niles, the reason he's round at the flat, working with Martin on their schooner, is that Maris has kicked him out. She's having a private tutor, a private lesson in fencing, from a man named Gunnar, which of course is a very Austrian, Central Europe name,
German name,
and Fraser starts to tie the pieces together in his head, but ultimately decides that he's jumped to conclusions. I think Martin kind of convinces him that it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, it's
not really. Wouldn't give it too much thought. But the next day, Gretchen phones back into the show, and I really love this scene. It's great. Her little phone call. And she's talking about Gunnar again, going to see his what is it she calls him? His little liver dumpling.
Yeah.
She's found a note that Gunnar wrote to, as we discover, Maris, Niles' wife, and it's she's translating it, and she calls him, right. So I'll try and get this right. Nichteinmenschlichfrau.
Okay.
Is the word that she uses according to a script online. Mm-hmm. So I asked a German friend if that, one, was a real word, and two, if it means what Gretchen then says it means.
Yeah.
It's not a real word.
No,
it's not a real word.
I would have assumed that it wasn't
it's not
a real term of endearment.
But the phrase is correct.
Yeah.
So Gretchen says it translates roughly to "not quite human woman." And yeah, my friend has said a more accurate translation would be "keine Menschlichfrau." Menschlichfrau.
Right.
Would be a better way to describe it.
Right.
So,
okay.
Not quite human woman. So I think the writers we're praising the writing so much, but they've probably just, I was going to say, gone to Google Translate. I don't think they had Google Translate back.
No, but they definitely didn't have Google at this point.
In the 90s.
I mean,
but they've just kind of
they were close, and I think part of what they did was just kind of those. Yeah. I can't remember what the term is, but I think quite common in German, just kind of mashing a bunch of nouns together until you make a new word.
It is quite funny, and the joke pays off, because Fraser does determine from that it is Maris, not quite human woman, that ongoing joke.
Yeah.
And Roz kind of calls him out on his weird behaviour. Fraser's sort of, he's panicky and doesn't really know what to say. And he reveals that it is Maris to her, inadvertently, but Roz isn't stupid. She figures it out. So Fraser goes to confront Maris, at her house, at her and Niall's house, the big gothic mansion, and Maris, quote unquote, is sitting in her sensory deprivation tank, which is just such a bizarre thing to have in your house.
How rich must you be? I'm going to look up how much a sensory deprivation tank costs.
Okay.
You continue talking.
I'll keep
I'm
talking
going to have a
while
look.
you look up. And Marta, the maid, leads Fraser in. He starts giving this whole speech about how she's going to ruin her marriage, how she can't go along with this affair, how ridiculous it is, and eventually he opens the door and it's little Niles sitting in naked and wet and sad, having just heard that his wife is having an affair. To which I think Fraser probably should have been a bit more careful. But
probably, yeah.
Did you find out how much?
No, I can see a company that's selling one, but I can't actually see how much it costs.
Okay.
Which I imagine means it's probably a lot.
I'll leave that with you. We carry on back at Fraser's apartment, and Niles has come by. He's distraught. He's upset. He's kind of dishevelled. He's got his, he's not wearing his tie. He's not got his suit on proper, which isn't something we see from Niles very often. And they're all, everyone's consoling him. Even little Eddie comes and consoles him,
he
which
does.
is dead sweet.
It's very sweet.
Comes and lays his head on his lap, and Niles doesn't know what to do. But both Martin and Fraser have both been through the same thing.
Yes,
they've both been cheated on. Martin kind of sees that Fraser's trying to give him sort of the psychiatrist approach and the sort of therapy, and doesn't agree with that, so he kind of sends him off to his room to find a paper that him and Lilith wrote about a good marriage. Which is really another funny. Great line. Fraser says, "Oh yeah, I think I've got half of it in the back room somewhere. Lilith got the other half in the divorce." It's brilliant. Yeah. But Martin gives Niles, I think, the well-needed advice which is, you confront the man. You confront the other man and tell him to back off. And he says, that's what I did last time. I said to the other man, if you don't stop this, you're going to be the other woman. Yeah. Which I think's maybe a little bit dicey.
Yeah, a little dated, but...
A little bit dated, but I like the sentiment.
Yeah.
I like that Martin is, that's his approach to it, is to stand up and...
kind of show your partner how much you care for them.
Exactly.
How much you're willing, how far you're willing to go. Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't disagree with him.
No, it's not bad advice. I did actually in our very first episode, allude to this, because in I Hate Fraser Crane, he kind of has a similar thing with Fraser when he's going back and forth with Derek Mann over the radio.
Yeah.
They're having arguments, and then they wind up, he picks a fight with Fraser, this guy, and Niles says, like, well, if he challenges you to a fight, you're not going to back down, you need to go and fight him. Yeah. Even if you get your ass kicked, you need to go and fight him, because that's what you do if you say you're going to fight someone. And I disagreed with him there, and I think at the time I said, yeah, he does the same with Niles later on, and I don't think that's good. I think here it's much more reasonable.
Oh, it's much more justified.
Definitely.
Yeah. Martin even says, even if you get your ass kicked, you go and you show your wife that you're willing to fight for her, kind of thing. Which I don't disagree with. No. I think that's decent advice.
He does actually say there's a line that when Niles first shows up to the apartment. Actually, here's another one of Niles' great entrances into the flat. That's true.
He opens the door and he's sort of composed.
And then as soon as they say hello to him, he just starts crying and almost falls over. But he says, like, he went to confront Maris and then chickened out when he just got in his car and he drove. And he said, like, oh, well, it's good that you wound up here. And he says, well, actually, I wound up at the Oregon border check, but I had fruit in the car, so I had to turn around. Which is really funny. And I was curious, because I don't actually know my US geography very well, how far it was from, like, at the closest point, how far it is from the US to...
from Seattle.
From Seattle to the Oregon border. And it's about 140 miles.
Okay.
Which is quite a distance.
That's a good, 3-hour drive?
Yeah. So each way, almost 300 miles, he will have driven down and then back up. That's the equivalent of driving from here down to, like, Birmingham.
Yeah,
it's quite a distance. It is pretty funny, though.
It is good. It's a nice little line, and it just kind of shows that Niles is kind of all over the place. He doesn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
He's not been in this situation before. Maris has always loved him, even if in her own way, she has always loved him, and he's always loved her, and there's not been any sort of extramarital difficulties. But we get to the final scene in the episode, which is one of the best scenes in the show. Yeah. And there's actually a couple of scenes in this disc that I would consider top 10 scenes in the show. Yeah. This is one of them. We meet Gunnar, the German fencing instructor, or Austrian, German speaking.
I think, Gretchen says she's Austrian, but...
Yeah. He doesn't speak any English, which Niles doesn't realise. And so he runs up to confront him and starts calling him names.
Strudel boy.
Strudel boy. You wouldn't know the meaning of the word rectitude. I don't think I know the meaning of the word rectitude. I don't know the meaning of the word rectitude. And to which Fraser says he wouldn't know the meaning of the word cat, dog, or pencil because he doesn't speak English. And Gunnar's just kind of standing there oblivious to what's going on. And via Marta, who... now, this is another amazing line. I broke down in a fit of laughter when I heard this.
Yeah.
Marta speaks German, so she's able to communicate with Gunnar.
Marta her English isn't very good.
Hispanic, so she's from Guatemala.
She's from Guatemala, yeah.
Fraser speaks a bit of Spanish, so he's able to communicate with her, and Niles doesn't speak either, so he communicates with Fraser. So there's this kind of chain of language. But when Marta first reveals that she can speak German, she says to Fraser in Spanish how she knows, and Fraser kind of turns around and says, she learned German after working for a German family who turned up in Guatemala after the war. And there's this sort of brief pause where you kind of gears go in the brain when you realise what that means.
The delivery is really fantastic.
It's I don't do it justice. It's amazing. It's but yeah, that little implication that who Marta was working for after the war is brilliant. I think that's really funny. It just adds to the kind of absurdity of Maris and her staff.
Yeah,
I think it is great. But they have this sort of chain conversation between everyone, and I think, does Fraser get it wrong or Marta gets it wrong? Basically, one of them mistranslates and accuses Gunnar of it's a spoiler. Mistranslates, but they accuse Gunnar of stealing Maris, basically. And he gets angry at this, challenges Niles to a fight. Niles pulls out one of the other foils and starts to fight with Gunnar with the fencing. Another great line. Another great line. When Niles pulls out the foil and says, "En garde!" And Fraser turns around and, in Kelsey Grammer's proper, exaggerated fashion, says, "Yes, Niles, that's just what we need, a fourth language." The delivery on these lines,
they are so funny.
Perfect. It's absolutely spot on.
And the physical comedy here is great.
In the little fight scene.
I have said before, David Hyde Pierce's physical comedy is it's a step above.
It is. It really, really is.
And this is one of the scenes where it really shines.
It's one of the few scenes where there's actually sort of a big, sort of, I won't say destructive moment.
It's kind of a big action-y set piece.
Gunnar destroys one of the vases, and Niles jumps up on the piano and then swings from the
chandelier.
As that song goes.
Yeah, because it's not just a fencing match. This is like a sword fight. It's supposed to be like a
for
kind
honor.
Of epic.
Yeah.
Almost like a, I don't know, Spartacus or something, where they're kind of, he's like going backwards up the stairs and, fencing as they go up. It's like something out of The Princess Bride, and then,
it's brilliant.
Running around, and only for a brief pause when Gunnar smashes the vase.
I know that,
and then he just starts, he's like, "Oh, very nice. Thank you for that." And then they go back into
telling him off. It's brilliant. But eventually Gunnar does prevail because he's an Olympic fencer.
Yeah.
What else was Niles to expect? Has Niles on the ground, sword on his chest, and he in German says something. Marta translates. Fraser then translates back through this chain and says, he demands you apologise. He didn't steal... And there's a pause. Your shoes... And it all kind of comes together, and they realise that they've mistranslated, and it's not his wife that he's accusing him of, it's stealing his shoes.
Stealing his shoes, which he, of course, did not do.
Which he didn't do.
They probably wouldn't fit. Judging by the size of Gunnar.
Gunnar is a big,
massive.
big man. Hello, dog. And Niles, they sort it out, and Gunnar is quite... I don't know if he's strictly apologetic, but he's quite saddened by the fact that Maris wouldn't go with him. Mm-hmm. He was in love with her, but Maris was in love with Niles, and that's quite a sweet moment.
Yes, like we really can't do it justice, but the way that these kind of somber moments are being translated back and forth between all the different languages in this little chain. Is just...
It's hilarious.
It is really, really funny.
So funny.
And then, Niles is so happy to hear that Maris isn't having an affair and that Gunnar was turned down because she loves him. And then he hugs Fraser, and then he hugs Marta, and then he goes to hug Gunnar, and then he stops
pats him on the shoulder.
Pats him on the shoulder and says, give me 5 minutes and then tell him he's fired. And he runs up the stairs.
It's a wonderful scene. It's so well executed. Mm-hmm. It's so well written. It does not surprise me in the slightest.
No.
That, this scene alone could be nominated for an Emmy. It's absolutely fantastic. Marta as well. I think, is this the first time we've seen Marta?
I think it might be. She gets mentioned earlier on. She's
definitely been mentioned, and she definitely shows up later. But this might be the first time we've seen her. She's great. I love Marta.
Because I think this is only the second time that we see the inside of their house as well.
Yeah, you're right. And
she gets mentioned in Fraser Crane's Day Off. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There you go. So it must have been the first time we see her, but she's a good character. She comes back a good few times. She's always funny. I was just looking up, and I was sure there was another episode that was nominated for writing, and there was.
On this disc?
I'll get into that. Not in this disc. Okay. One episodes earlier in the season. So 2 episodes were nominated, including this one, and it won, which is not surprising at all.
So need I even ask what rating you gave it?
This is a 5.
It's a 5.
This is a 5-cupper, hands down.
Easy 5-cupper without question. I mean, we've sung its praises enough. I don't know if there's anything more to even say.
I don't even.
The writing, the performances,
gone into
the humour, the sort of heart behind it all. Mm-hmm. It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I'm just going to move on because I could sit here and praise it all day.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah,
so good.
Move on to the next episode.
Episode 4 on this disc is Agents in America, Part 3.
Yeah.
This title always confused me.
I actually just Googled it because I was really curious, because I realised that I didn't actually know what it was. There's kind of 2 thoughts about what it is. Some people think that it's Agents in America Part 3 because it's the 3rd episode that features BB.
Okay.
After Selling Out and In the Whimper Is in Season 1.
Yep.
There are other people who believe that it is a reference to a play called Angels in America. Which had 2 parts.
Right.
So, Angels in America Part 3 becomes Agents in America Part 3.
Yeah.
I don't know, really.
It's just a cheeky little joke.
Just a joke, yeah. Joke titles, as tends to have.
Yep.
Still have no idea what the Crucible means. I've tried to find out. I've looked it up. I think I'm just going to have to read the play.
It's probably like a really obscure reference to like one line in the play.
God, I hope not. I don't want to have to read.
You have to analyse the whole thing. Anyway, Agents in America Part 3 is all about Fraser and BB angling to get a raise.
Yeah.
Effectively. Fraser has... Well, I mean, to be fair, he has no idea. He's had his yearly salary review or whatever. He got... What was it, 8% raise 8%. Or something? Which, for someone like Fraser, his salary is probably pretty decent.
Yeah, the amount of money he's probably making.
An 8% raise, I can't imagine is too shabby.
No, an 8% for him is probably somewhere around 10 grand.
Yeah, like that's a
easy
fair chunk. Whereas Baby, Fraser's agent from earlier, if you've forgotten, believes that he's worth more, basically. Probably due to her commission on that front, but also, you know, she is a good agent and she obviously sees things that Fraser doesn't. So she thinks that he's worth more and basically manipulates him into going up against the station management. Tom, what's his second name? Can't remember his second name.
Duran. Tom Duran.
Tom Duran.
In his second of two appearances. The handsome Tom. He basically goes on strike. Yeah, effectively.
I don't know if it's kind of implied that he calls in sick.
Yeah, because they talk about him kind of pretending to have a fever or pretending to.
Yeah, it's kind of running joke that he has a fever, but they don't. I don't know. The station then responds by like taking down his photo from the station, by painting over his parking space, by auditioning replacements. So they obviously know that this is what he's doing. He's angling for a renegotiation. But they wouldn't know that if he just called in sick. So I don't really know. That confused me a little bit.
I don't know. I think he does say, like, oh, they know I'm not sick. And I know they know I'm not sick. And they know that I... Whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe he probably makes it clear that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
They might suspect it if it's in the middle of a contract negotiation.
Yeah. For
him to suddenly say, nah, I can't come in today. I'm not feeling well.
But either way, he's not going into work at the moment, and he starts to get a bit nervous as more and more evidence piles up that they are genuinely looking for a replacement for him. Roz comes in and tells him that they're auditioning replacements. The guy comes along who's cleared out Fraser's desk and brings a box along of his stuff, who actually jokes that he's had a really good audition as well. So Fraser's starting to get really nervous. BB says, don't worry. It's absolutely fine. This is exactly what we knew they would do. Hold on out and we'll get your renegotiation.
Yeah.
But Fraser panics and whatnot. And they're sitting around in the flat having their champagne and playing cards and stuff. BB's really nasty to Daphne here.
Yes, she is.
And I love BB. I love her character. I think she's hilarious. I think her performance is great. I can't remember the actress's name, and I'm really bad for that.
No,
I might get you to look it up. You're the man on the phone.
I am.
But she's great. She's absolutely wonderful, and the character is great. But I really hate how she behaves to Daphne.
Yeah.
You know, I think you can tell a lot by someone's character on how they treat, you know, like service workers and things like that.
Yeah. Harriet Harris.
I knew it was Harriet something. I couldn't remember. Yeah, she's wonderful.
She is.
And to be like, her performance is still great. It's just I don't like how she treats Daphne.
Yeah, no, she's always. It's great seeing her show up because she's such a. I don't want to say hammy. She kind of steals the scenes because she's such a flamboyant character.
She's such a character,
which is great to see.
But Daphne gets her own back as well, which is great. She sort of hands over the wine and says, you know, put that in the freezer. Hands over some chocolate, put that on a plate. And then Daphne comes along later and hands her a plate of biscuits. And as Bibi takes a bite out of one of them, she realises it's the dog's biscuit.
Yeah, the dog biscuits.
And Daphne's got her revenge.
Yeah.
Which is great, because quite right too.
Yeah.
It goes on for a wee bit, and as it gets closer and closer to midnight, which is the limit on when the contract renegotiations can be organised.
Yeah, well, she calls all of these kind of stunts that the station is doing, all the clearing out his desk and things like that. Fraser starts to get really nervous, and BB says, well, okay, no, it's fine, we'll put an end to this now, and calls them. And of course you think she's going to say, right, let's talk, we're backing down, we'll talk about this. But instead she doubles down and she says, if you don't come to us by midnight, we walk.
Yeah.
Which is not what Fraser had in mind, and you can see him start to panic even more.
He's really sweating.
Yeah. So that puts a bit of a deadline on it, so then they're sitting counting down the minutes towards midnight.
Yeah. And just 5 minutes before midnight, we do get the phone call from Tom. Just as Fraser is saying, right, no, enough, back down, we're not going through with it.
Yeah.
Tom phones and concedes
Yeah.
to a renegotiation, which is, it's BB's plan all along. She knows what she's doing. She's a great agent.
She is.
Even if she is lying on all fronts. She lies to Fraser about having other job offers.
Yeah.
Which panics him even more, but she knows what she's doing. And the next scene, so they have their celebration, they have a little drink.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned this scene, I think it was last week, when Niles comes in.
Yeah.
So it turns out that Fraser and BB slept together
the
previous night. Fraser wakes up groggy on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
And Niles pops by, and as he rings the doorbell, BB comes through in Fraser's big shirt and no trousers or skirt or whatever, and opens the door. And Niles, I don't know if it's deliberate or not, but you can see David Hyde Pierce trying not to laugh.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's intentional or not, but you see it on his face. He's trying so hard not to laugh. And he just kind of stands there and assesses the situation for a second, and then he rings the doorbell again. And there's just something so humorous about
it's the way he's gone completely stiff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such great.
Just like Fraser did the night before.
Oh, that's gross. I hate that.
Moving swiftly on.
Yeah.
So
moving
Martin
stiffly on, more like.
Moving stiffly. Boo. Fraser obviously regrets his night with BB.
Yeah.
Because, well, one, she's his agent. Mm-hmm. Two, she's evil.
Yeah.
I don't think she's strictly unattractive, but
no, I wouldn't say so.
He doesn't. It wasn't intentional the night before, and he wants to tell her. But the guy's basically, well, he doesn't want to tell her initially because he's worried that she'll sabotage his negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
But then Martin makes a really good point that if he doesn't tell her, she's going to feel really used.
Yeah.
If he waits until afterwards. So he does. He tells her before, and she kind of leaves upset, I guess.
Yeah, you definitely get the feeling that she's upset, but she's masking it, which is what Fraser thinks as well. He says,
exactly right,
"Oh, you know what it's like with strong women." But then, of course, moving ahead. Well, yeah, moving ahead, we do realize that she wasn't really that upset at all.
Yeah,
it was just a bit of fun for her. Maybe it could have gone somewhere. Maybe the two of them could have had a relationship
potentially,
but she wasn't particularly bothered by not doing it either. So, yeah.
But we move to the next scene in Nervosa. Fraser's still worried about it. He's sitting chatting to. Is it Niles he's chatting to? Yeah, he's sitting chatting to Niles is yapping away, and Fraser's not paying attention at all. And Roz comes in, and then Bulldog runs in and is all in a panic that BB's out on a ledge about to jump.
Yeah.
And of course they jump up and they run back across and whatnot, and they go into Tom's office, and BB's standing out on the ledge.
Yeah.
Threatening to jump. Fraser obviously assuming that it's because he called it off with her.
Yeah.
Bulldog has a great line here. It says, my contract's up for renegotiation in 3 weeks, so you'd better save her. She's my agent too. It's just like this callous.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Uncaring. But yeah, and as Fraser steps out onto the ledge to save BB, she quickly announces to him that it's all just a big play to make him seem like this big hero and make his stock skyrocket.
Yeah.
It works.
It totally works.
To be fair, it's pretty... it's not pretty, it's very underhanded. But it works.
It is. Oh, yeah.
It works. I'm amazed that no one saw it. They know what BB's like. Mm-hmm. So I'm amazed that they see her coming back in on Fraser's arm, sits down, everything's fine immediately, and they don't suspect anything.
Yeah.
But Tom immediately says, that was amazing. There's no way we'll let you go after this. Yeah.
It's clearly won him a good 20% extra on his salary, which is what BB's going for in the first place.
It's bizarre, but
it is really funny watching the two of them arguing out on the ledge as they're kind of pretending that, Frasier's pretending to console BB's pretending to be suicidal. And they're kind of going back and forth. She says, just give me one reason to live. And Frasier says, there's hundreds of reasons. Work, art, the people who love you. Now get back inside here, you crazy.
Yeah, this shift in tone.
It's, great.
It is wonderful.
We don't often see that kind of harsh language on... there's only maybe a handful of times, and it's not even exactly that harsh, but there's only a handful of times that they say something that's even that bad, but it's very funny.
Yeah. It is good. It is a good episode. I like the message it sends as well, because even though you're kind of led to believe that Frasier's doing something wrong, and BB's being a bit evil in her methods... I think what they're doing is correct.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, it's implied that Frasier has brought a lot of business to the station.
Yeah.
That he's increased ad revenue, I think they say.
They said it's something like 200%.
By quite a bit.
Which is, huge increase.
And if he's only getting, a partial bonus compared to what he should be getting, then he's quite right to demand a renegotiation, in my opinion. There's a lot of that at the moment, One of the few, very, very few positives to come out of the pandemic is, this sort of relationship with work and your employers and, knowing your worth.
Yeah, definitely.
Basically.
Definitely.
And I think that's quite evident here, is that even though they're kind of shown to be almost the bad guys in the situation, kind of screwing over the station, I think they're 100% right.
Yeah. I imagine the what they get out of it in the end is probably what Frasier is worth.
It's justified.
He is getting his
absolutely.
Dues.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good point. It's a good point.
Yeah. I noticed that thinking about it. It does kind of, again, tie into modern day and what's going on at the moment, which is nice. It's always nice to see a show sort of age well.
Yeah, there's always this kind of relevance.
Yeah. So what did you think?
This is another 5 for me.
A 5? Really?
To be honest.
A 5?
I thought this was going to be the lowest rated episode for me. I thought I was going to give this either a 3 or a 4. Yeah. I was expecting it to be the lowest rated. Even at a 3 or a 4 is still great, but no, it's a 5. I had forgotten how good some of the dialogue is. Okay. How funny the setup is.
I know you like BB as well.
I do always love seeing BB. I think she's hilarious. This is when they, right at the start, Niles points to her when they're in the cafe and says, "Oh God, it's that woman that works for you. What's her name? I can't remember." She's like Lady Macbeth without the sincerity, which is so hilarious.
And the way Fraser immediately knows,
it's BB,
who he means.
Yeah. No, I think this is a 5. It's a 5 cupper.
Interesting. I've gone with a 3.
Yeah.
It's probably the lowest rating, the lowest rated episode of this disc, I would say. It's a high 3. It is a lot funnier than I remember.
Yeah.
Daphne's got some great moments. I love the way that gets her revenge on BB.
Yeah.
Martin and Niles sort of making the jokes at Fraser's expense after he's slept with BB and things like that. And BB herself is great. Her appearances are always wonderful. But it just, I don't know, it just didn't. It's a good all-rounder.
Yeah.
But it's not a great all-rounder.
No.
So I gave a high 3.
Yeah.
High 3. Happy?
Yeah. I'm sticking with a 5 because I love it.
That's fine. No, that's fine. That's fine. I think it's no surprise that the next episode will be significantly higher rated.
Yeah.
The next episode, The Innkeepers, of course, the source of the podcast's name.
Our namesake, in a way.
It is. I'm kind of sad that it's so early in the show. It would have been nice to build up to it a wee bit, but it's fine. Everyone will know.
Yeah, everyone knows where we stand.
Where we stole the name from.
Yeah.
It's a really good episode, though.
It itself. It might be my favorite episode of the whole show.
Really?
Let alone the season or the disc or whatever. Could very possibly.
Honestly, it's deserving of it.
Yeah,
it's deserving of it.
It's fantastic.
It is a wonderful, wonderful.
I think
episode.
I do maybe have a bit of a. We'll get into the premise, but I think the fact that it centers around working in a restaurant,
and
I do have that kind of connection with it. I mean, it's not like there's jokes in it that you would only get if you worked in a restaurant. There's none of that, but it's, I think, kind of having that personal connection to it does make me like it a bit more. Yeah, it's very funny.
So the premise is basically the brothers buy a restaurant. That is it in a sentence.
Yeah, it's another one of those Fraser and Niles try to work together, but can't. This is, well, I suppose the conflict doesn't really come from the two of them arguing and bickering. Or not that much. There's a bit of it. There's definitely a bit of it.
Yeah.
But not nearly to the same extent as in Author.
No.
Or in the one that I can't remember the name of later on when they go into private practice together.
Shrink Wrap.
Yes.
That's coming up. That's the next disc, actually. That's the start of season 3.
Is it start of season 3? I thought it was later on. But yeah, so not quite to the same extent as those two. It's not just the two of them cannot work together, but it is one of those, inevitably, when they try to do something together, it falls apart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're completely in over their heads. This restaurant called, I can't remember what it's
Orsini's.
called. Orsini's. I was always confusing that with Maximilian's, which is the German restaurant that they mentioned.
Is it? Yeah.
Orsini's. Which has been in Seattle for however many years.
It's
they went
institutions.
They went, I suppose, at least about 30, 40 years, because they talk about Niles going there when he was a kid.
Yeah. Sending back his veal Prince Orloff.
Yeah, when he was 8 years old or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's closing its doors, and Fraser and Niles go there. Well, Fraser, Niles, Martin and Daphne all go there.
Yep.
On the last night that it's open, to say goodbye because they love the restaurant, and then they decide for whatever reason that they think they could do it better, and they buy it.
Yep.
And
just
convert.
Right.
I mean, it must have taken months.
I think it's implied there's a fair
time
jump,
difference.
Yeah.
We do kind of just skip ahead to them. It actually just fades from.
It fades directly from the empty restaurant,
sitting there deciding that they are going to buy the restaurant, directly into them owning it and having all of the decor changed, and they're in their tuxes on opening night, walking around, and oh man,
it is a lovely location. It does look like a nice big fancy restaurant. It's got sort of steps coming down from the street. Very, very fancy. This big open pillared floor. I like it. I think it looks really good.
It does.
I don't. You want to buy a restaurant like that?
Oh man, yeah. If I had the money to buy a restaurant, that's the kind of place. Actually, no. If I had the money to buy a restaurant, I'd definitely buy a smaller place first, because I think that's probably the mistake that they make. They take on way too much at once.
Yeah.
But
it goes kind of just from bad to worse very, very
definitely.
quickly. It kicks off. Everyone's great. Everyone's enjoying their food.
Yeah.
Daphne and Martin have their meal.
Yeah.
They enjoy it. They're about to head off. It does say like everyone's enjoying the food, so it's implied that
the food
at least a few people have been served.
They do talk about the chef that they've brought on, who is apparently a chef who was at a different restaurant and was unhappy.
Yeah. Chef Maurice.
Yeah, they talk about how great he is. Mm-hmm. He's fantastic. His speciality is anguilla, eels. And Daphne eats it. Doesn't even know that it is eel, but eats it and says, "Oh, it's fantastic. It's delicious." So it's implied they've got a really great chef behind them.
Yep.
It's a good location, nice decor. It's very busy on opening night, so it's all lined up for it to go well. But of course, it doesn't.
Of course, it doesn't. So it starts small and kind of snowballs. Mm-hmm. So we've got the cherries jubilee. This, I presume it's a dessert dish.
Yes.
With brandy in it, I think it is.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to like crepes suzette, I think.
That does not help me.
Okay, so it's like, I believe cherries jubilee, it's like you have crepes, they would be made at the table. Right. So you would have like a trolley with like a little burner on it with a pan. Yeah. So someone would come over, make a crepe like fresh to order, and you'd have like cherry, I guess like compote with like brandy in it. Then they would serve it and they would light it at the table.
Okay.
It would be like flambéed.
Yeah.
I might be getting things mixed up because that's kind of what they do with Bananas Foster.
Let's roll with that. But there's alcohol in it. Yeah. That's the main point. Mm-hmm. This big pot of cherry compote, as you say, and they decide to put a little bit more brandy in. And as the night goes on, you see them. It's never part of the dialogue, but they just you see them as they walk back and forth. Fraser and Niles pouring extra little bit of brandy on here and there.
Yeah.
And then we've got the soufflés. Mm-hmm. Chef Maurice is preparing the dessert soufflés, and he's putting them all into their own little dishes, their own little ramekins. Niles comes through and he says, Chef Maurice, would you be adverse to trying something a bit different? Would you like to try putting them all in one big pot, one big dish, and then we'll serve them at the table? I want people to think big souffle when they think of Niles Crane.
Big souffle.
Big souffle. And Chef Maurice is clearly a bit grumpy about this, but, he does it because they're the bosses, and he's just the chef. But, I mean, he clearly knows what they're doing, and this is...
Yeah.
Fraser and Niles just kind of getting their pride, getting the best of them. And yeah, that snowballs as well.
Yes.
For Fraser then comes back in and tells him to do it in the small ramekins again.
Yeah.
And then Niles comes back in and does big souffle, and it comes to a head, and Chef Maurice walks out.
Yeah.
Poor Chef Maurice.
Yeah.
He just wanted to make good food.
He did.
He did. And then, of course, the waiters get knocked out. They can't determine which kitchen door is in, which one's out.
I don't really get the point in that system.
To avoid situations like this, I think.
No, that's true. That's true. It's more that I think having an open kitchen in a restaurant is better because it's easier to see things coming in and out.
I guess.
Maybe that's just from my experience.
Possibly.
There you go.
But either way, the waiters end up knocked out.
Yeah.
And one of them has to go to the hospital. One of them's out cold. And presumably has to go to the hospital as well.
Oh, yeah.
So
the bartender drives them.
That's right. Yeah, the bartender takes them to the hospital.
So now they're down their wait staff.
Yep.
And a bartender.
And
a head chef.
So they promote the sous chef, who quickly resigns.
Yeah.
When he realizes that the immigration bureau is seated at a table outside.
The way that, I mean, none of them really even have dialogue. The sous chef has, I think, one line. He says thank you when they make him the head chef.
Yeah.
And then Niles says, we've got 2 state senators and the head of the immigration bureau at table 5. Yep. And all of the chefs in the background just scatter. Yep. It's like the bit in Ratatouille when all the rats run out the door. They're all just running.
Are you saying French people are rats?
No, I'm saying chefs are rats. Yeah, so they're out the door.
Yeah, it's very funny. Like, there's so many like visual gags in this. Yeah. Just seeing all the chefs run away. And of course, Daphne and Martin are drafted in to help. Martin with that big gloating smile on his face. He told them it would be a mistake.
Yeah.
He said it wouldn't work, and they didn't listen. Again, Fraser knows best.
Yep.
So he gets to gloat as he works behind the bar. And thankfully, Roz turns up with her fancy date as well, and she is able to be, I think, blackmailed into helping.
Yeah. See, I recognised the actor that plays Roz's date.
Oh, really?
He's quite a handsome guy. I think he is fairly. See, I recognised him, and at first I thought it might have been Vincent D'onofrio, who played when he was younger and had hair before he shaved his head, did look kind of like that. So I thought, no, you're disagreeing with me.
See that.
I thought it was for a second and then realised it wasn't. Oh. But he's in an episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh.
I don't know I can't even remember the actor's name off the top of my head, but I recognised him from that.
Okay. Well, there you go.
It doesn't really mean anything.
He's only in for one scene and then
he is.
Orders a drink from Roz after she becomes a waiter.
Yeah.
So at this point it's all going wrong. Everyone's panicking. Everyone's arguing with one another. You know, Niles and Daphne are working in the kitchen. Roz is coming in, giving them orders, and they're arguing with one another. And then Fraser's coming in and trying to settle them, but just making them more antsy. It's all going down the tubes. Martin suggests leveling with everyone and just admitting the errors. Send everyone home, give them a free meal, and then we'll try again the next day. But as he goes to do this, Gil Chesterton and his team of restaurant critics stroll in, and of course Fraser's pride gets the better of him, and he thinks he can save it.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert: he can't save it. He makes the mistake of giving Roz the matches to light the cherries jubilee, and that's kind of the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
She goes out to light the big bowl of compote, did you say? Cherry
It'll
compote.
be 90% brandy at this point.
And at this point, as we say, the visual gag of them putting the brandy in, just... we just hear a big, loud bang and a flash. The doors to the kitchen kind of waving in the background, and Roz comes in with this like black suit makeup and her hair just out wild everywhere. Kelsey Grammer, you can see it on his face. He is trying so hard not to laugh.
There are so many outtakes for this scene where they just crack up as soon as she walks in. They just crack up.
He is. You can see it, just the look on his face. He cannot keep it together.
Yeah.
And Roz as well comes in and just does amazingly. Perry Gilpin does an amazing job of keeping a stern face. It's like big blue flash, cherries everywhere, and that inadvertently sets off the sprinklers, which that's it.
That's
game
the
over.
End.
The sprinklers are off. The food is soaked. The patrons are soaked. Gil alludes to making sure
no one will ever
forget this. And just as they think it couldn't get any worse, Otto, the lovely Orsini's waiter, another Seattle institution, who has been employed as the valet, comes crashing through the wall. Another big destructive set piece, actually.
That's true. Yeah,
It's one of the very few ones. Drives through the wall. Yeah. And just puts the final nail in the coffin that is Le Frères Heureux.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's such a fantastic episode.
Sequence. It's all in one. It's not one shot, but it's all one evening.
It's almost like it plays out in real time.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah, it does. It plays out in real time. It's pretty much
in real time. Yeah, which is great.
It
is very
15,
funny.
20 minutes.
Yeah. The scene afterwards when they're clearly kind of. I mean, it's not quite picking through the wreckage of the restaurant, but they're just sitting, having a drink, and complaining about how miserable the night has been and how horrible it is. There's some funny jokes when David Hyde Pierce is just kind of like staring up into the ceiling. And he says, how much firepower do you think you need to embed a cherry in an acoustic ceiling tile?
And then Martin does get... He kind of says he's not going to gloat, but then someone rings in and Martin answers the phone and he says, oh yeah, table for four, yeah, absolutely, would you like it smoke damaged or non-smoke damaged? And I just love that. He does get the final say, but it's another absolute corker. It's along with An Affair to Forget, it's amazing. The dialogue, the visual gags and the performance of all the actors is great. Daphne actually has some really good moments here.
Yes,
when she's in the kitchen cleaning and she sort of steps up and says, no, I've waited tables before, I've cooked in the kitchen before, and tells Roz off, and she holds her own against Niles. And then she kills the eel. That
I was going to wait because I think that's probably the highlight for me for the whole disc is this joke of Niles gets a bit squeamish about having to kill the eels for the anguilla. They make a joke about him throwing a toaster in the eel tank, and all the lights flickering, which is really funny. But then he's kind of standing with his meat cleaver, just splashing it into the water, saying, I'm not touching them until I'm sure they're dead. And then Daphne barges over, grabs one of these eels with her hand, and then just whacks it. Whacks the head of the eel against the kitchen counter.
It just kind of wobbles.
It's gone stiff. It's kind of wobbling in her hand.
It's wonderful. It's a really, really great moment.
Hilarious.
It's funny, isn't it, Harry?
What are you whining about? Big whiny nuisance dog.
And I don't think I really need to ask you what rating you gave it.
Nah, it's a 5.
It's a 5.
It's another 5 cover.
Easy 5. I think there are a few episodes that are undoubtedly a 5, without question.
Yeah.
Affair to Forget and the Innkeepers.
Definitely
easy 5s.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's another episode that I could easily go on praising for hours, but we've been yammering on for about an hour and a half now, so I think we should round off season 2.
Yep.
The final disc and the final episode of season 2, rounding off with Dark Victory.
Yes.
It's... I mean, when you compare the season finales to My Coffee with Niles,
yeah,
you're going to struggle. Mm-hmm. Because My Coffee with Niles is almost perfect. It's an almost perfect episode of television. So I think this does... I mean, when you compare it to that, it takes a bit of a dip. But in the context of the rest of the seasons, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It is a good episode.
Yeah,
it is still,
definitely.
Still up there. It centres around Martin's birthday party. Mm-hmm. Which the boys obviously forgot last year.
The year before.
During the season finale.
My Coffee with Niles,
they mention it. And Fraser's remembered this year. He wants to throw a big party. He's bought champagne. He's bought a cake. Mm-hmm. Loads of snacks. Rose is having a bit of a hard time missing her family. So she's going to come along and it's going to be a great time and everyone's going to have a load of fun. Obviously, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Obviously, it
falls
doesn't
apart.
happen. The best laid plans.
Yep.
So yeah, in this episode, everyone's kind of at each other's throats. Mm. They've all got their issues at the moment. And Fraser... The underlying plot is that Fraser wants a weekend away. Or not away, but off.
Yes.
He wants to take his headphones off. Mm-hmm. He wants to hang up his psychiatrist hat. And he wants to just have a nice party and relax. Because he's always getting bothered about solving people's problems and stuff. Yeah. Which is his job, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But outside of his job, he just wants a break. But everyone's got issues.
Everyone has problems, yeah.
Roz is missing her family. Martin and Daphne are having an argument about him not exercising.
He's refusing to do his exercises.
Yeah.
Even more so. Usually he's kind of a bit hesitant or a bit difficult, but now he's being really, really difficult about it, really kind of petulant about it. And Daphne's getting more annoyed than usual when dealing with this.
Yeah.
We have actually a bit of a guest caller at the beginning relating to Niles' issues. We have a guest call from a woman called Caroline, who is played by Shelley Duvall, the wonderful Shelley Duvall. I think she's great.
You messaged me about The Shining this morning as well.
I did message you about The Shining this morning.
How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
That's spooky.
Didn't think about that. Yes, Shelley Duvall, who was in The Shining, along with many, many other things. I kind of want to give her credit for more than just The Shining.
Sorry, I shouldn't.
Because she is largely known for that, but she is also known for having a really shit time of it on the set of The Shining, because Stanley Kubrick was a dickhead. So, yeah, credit for lots of other work. She did lots of, like, kind of children's programming, like fairy tale theatre, I think it was called, kind of in the 80s. Lots of stuff like that, which is all very highly regarded. And I think she's great. I think she's a lovely person. Yeah. So, yeah, Shelley Duvall's great. She calls in because she's been in therapy for a couple of years and she feels like she's not making progress anymore. Not necessarily that she's, cured, or to put it one way, or that she feels like she's, not needing therapy anymore. She just doesn't feel like she's progressing with her therapist.
Yeah.
And Fraser says, if that's how you feel, you should look for someone else, because maybe that's just what happens. Sometimes you can't make progress with one person for that long.
Reasonable advice.
It is. Then when Niles shows up at the apartment later on for Martin's birthday, it turns out that she was Niles' patient.
Yeah.
And is very upset at the idea that he has had 2 years of progress with Caroline, and Fraser's very short-lived advice on the radio has caused that to come to an end, and he's very frustrated.
Which, I mean, I can see both sides. Like,
yes, you can see.
Fraser did give honest advice, but I think Niles is justifiably upset at the fact that his work has been almost undone.
Yeah.
By one of Fraser's 2-minute mix sessions, as he says.
The fast food approach to psychiatry.
Exactly. So, the whole family have got their issues, and they're just not having a good time of it. Martin then goes to blow his cake out, as it all kind of comes to a head, and they're, just saying, oh, fine, let's just get the cake out of the way, and we'll all go our separate ways, and whatever. And Martin blows out his candle, and the whole building goes dark.
Yeah.
Niles has a great line where he says, well, we know there's nothing wrong with Dad's lungs. But there's been a blackout in Seattle. And they're basically stuck in the building, I think. Oh, but they're not strictly stuck,
Yeah.
But they don't really want to go out onto the street because they fear it's going to be a wee bit mad.
Yeah.
If there's a blackout here, it doesn't go mad. I don't know what things are like in America, but
yeah. Well, I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't know when the last time we had a full citywide blackout.
Well, I suppose citywide's a bit different, isn't it? Yeah. I had a blackout last month.
Yeah, when we had really bad wind, it was really bad wind.
You had really bad wind.
Yeah. No, I didn't really have. Maybe living in the middle of the town is different from living out here in the
I guess
suburbs.
That's true. But they find ways to entertain themselves. They they try to put their grievances to the side, and they sit and play. Well, they sit and play I'm the dullest person, which I think is just kind of an altered Never Have I Ever.
Yeah, kind of like a less drinking game focused version of Never Have I Ever.
Yeah, so they're all, Roz wins because she's done everything.
Yeah.
And they're kind of saying, I've never been to France. So everyone who has been to France has to put a penny in the middle or something. But Daphne sort of jokingly says, I've never had I've never had sex in an elevator or a fairground or
a phone booth. And
Roz just gradually puts all of her pennies into the middle.
Yeah.
Which is very cheeky, but I'm sure Roz has no regrets. So
no, they make a joke. She says, I was in college and I was trying to find myself.
Yeah.
And Niall says, did you try looking under the nearest man?
Yeah.
It is a funny line. I don't know. We're sex positive here on this podcast.
Yeah, it's a little bit cheeky.
There's nothing wrong with going out and...
I guess Fraser and Niles are quite,
real.
I don't know how much they take from Martin. Martin, of course, as said before, he's very... Sex is something to do with you and the person you're doing it to, as he so eloquently put it.
I don't know if you call him prudish. I suppose you probably would, actually.
Maybe a little bit. But it's a very private person. I think Niles has that a little bit. Fraser less so, but they do kind of still poke fun at Roz, whereas she is very open about everything. She's very open about her relationships and sex and talking about it and everything. Which is nice to see, because even though they'd make jokes, they never... I want to say they never make fun of her character for it.
Yeah.
Which maybe that wasn't the intention. I always feel like her character's never diminished, even after these kind of jokes.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Because she gives as good as she gets.
Yeah.
So I'm watching her, and they make jokes at her expense about things like sex, and I never think less of Roz.
Yeah.
I hope that was the intention. I don't know if it was. I don't know if it's just I love Roz so much that she can't be tainted for me. But either way, she's a great character, and But they all kind of have a bit of a shouting match off the back of that. I think Niles kind of sets it off with an offhanded comment against Fraser. They have an argument. Martin goes off to his room. Roz goes out to the balcony. Niles decides to go back home to Maris.
Yeah. And
Fraser gradually does the rounds. He takes his psychiatrist hat off the shelf, puts it back on. I don't know why I'm going with that metaphor, but I'm rolling with it. And he gradually just works his way around everyone and sort of helps them out. So he speaks to Roz, and she's feeling a bit down because she's not seen her family. And I like Fraser's advice here. I like what it says about her. She says she's sad because she always has to give the same old speech to her family, about not being married, about having the same job, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And Fraser turns around and says, well, you're a female producer in a male-dominated industry. You're award-winning. Yeah. You're a pioneer. I'm like, I really like that.
It's true. Yeah,
and it is absolutely true. But I just like that they say that. And that's not the last time that they point towards Roz being, at the forefront
very good at her job.
Exactly. Well. So I really like that. Fraser goes to help Daphne. She's her. I don't know. Her issues are anyway. Not so sure what her problem is, but I think she's feeling a bit out of place. Yeah. In the Crane household. She wanted to move into her own place, but then she actually feels like she doesn't want to be alone. and she's kind of sitting in this sort of limbo where she feels like she's an intruder in someone else's home, which she has said before.
Yeah.
And in the last episode we spoke on Daphne's room, that's her own little space.
Yeah.
And she feels like she's a guest in someone else's house. So I do kind of get that. It's not the first time she's mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
But she also says that she's saved up enough money to move out.
Yeah.
She just doesn't really want to. And Fraser kind of says, well, we love having you here. And I think you like being here as well. So yeah, get over it, I guess.
I guess it's kind of, in the end, she seems to be slightly more settled into the idea of...
Yeah, she feels a bit chipper.
Not resigned to the idea of still working there. She talks about how she feels like she's wasting her time because she could be working in a hospital or in a clinic or doing more to help people.
Yeah.
And Fraser kind of says, like, well, it doesn't matter if you could be doing more if that's not what you want to do. If what you want is to be here and to be part of a family and to work closely with one person.
And she is helping Martin.
Which is what she's doing.
Doing well. Although Martin doesn't feel like he's being helped. Or I don't think it's that he doesn't feel he's being helped. I think he's frustrated.
Yeah, because he feels like he isn't progressing.
Yeah, he feels like his hip's still as bad as it was.
Yeah.
And them talking about like going to Paris depresses him a little bit because he doesn't feel he's ever going to be able to get out there.
He says that he always wanted to go to Paris when his hip got better.
Yeah.
And he thought he would be there at this point, 2 years into, or about 2 years into
2 years in, yeah.
Or 2 years into him getting bad enough that he had to move in with Fraser.
Well, yeah, 2 years moving in with Fraser.
Yeah.
And but Fraser, I think Fraser's advice here is good, is that he doesn't need, he can go to France. He doesn't need to walk around France. He doesn't need to put strain on his hip. He can go and he can sit in a cafe and just soak in French culture.
Yeah.
I like the little line that he says, you can get a nice imported beer. It's like, oh, well, I only like Ballantines. It's like, well, in France, Ballantines is imported beer. Yeah. I was like, nice.
It's true.
And then we have the final Niles entrance
Does have a great entrance.
Niles has attempted to go downstairs. He's got into the parking garage and can't get out because it's electronically opened. Mm-hmm. And obviously because of the power cut, he can't get out. So he climbs back up the stairs, but miscounts and ends up one flight higher than he should be, and he's encountered a big scary dog.
Big dog.
And I can't remember what the line is exactly, but he says it in sort of staggered breaths as he bursts in the door. He's like, miscounted stairs, got upstairs, mean lady, big dog, need place to die. And kind of comes in and he's still a bit flippant towards Fraser, even though he's trying to help him, but he does eventually resign to it.
Yeah.
And accepts that, well, Fraser's advice is that he is a good psychiatrist and he shouldn't feel stepped on. It's more that, maybe the patient just needed a bit of a change.
Yeah.
And if he was being a perfectionist and didn't want to, sign her off until she was absolutely 100% perfect, then, they're going to be in therapy forever.
Yeah.
Which isn't really a great attitude, I suppose.
No.
I mean, it is for him because he'll make lots of money, but...
Yeah.
And Niles kind of accepts that. But now this bit, normally what we say is that we don't like Fraser.
Yeah.
In certain situations. He does things that, maybe not quite as...
Yeah.
As right as we would have done that.
Yeah, the previous few episodes he's been a bit of an idiot. He's been a bit of a whiner.
Yeah.
He's been a bit of a...
But here, I really feel for him.
Oh, no, I do, 100%.
I really feel for him.
You sympathise a lot. He was so looking forward to an evening or a weekend, at the end of the week when he could take off his headphones and not be a psychiatrist. He can just have a good time.
Yeah.
And all he does all evening is put up with other people's problems and have to help them through their problems. And he talks about how every time he does that, it costs him a little bit of himself.
Yep.
And he really needed a break and he couldn't get it.
Yeah.
And as soon as he takes his time and he is patient with everyone else, in spite of the fact that they're being really difficult with him and with everyone else, he's really patient with them and he's, empathetic, and he helps them figure out why they're so frustrated and helps them get along with each other again. they give up on him. They're not interested in sitting in his apartment at his party that he's organised. They want to go downstairs. Someone's having a blackout party on the floor below.
Yeah.
So they just leave, and Fraser says, like, no, I'm not coming. I just want to stay here and be by myself. And they kind of go like, oh, he's been a party pooper. He's always like this, being so difficult. And Fraser says, like, well, no, like, he explains, all I wanted was to spend a nice evening with you and not have to deal with people's problems for once. And I get back into it and I help you, as I'm happy to do. And as soon as you smell the barbecue coming from the floor below,
mesquite from downstairs,
you're out the door.
Yeah. So I really feel for him.
That's unfortunately something that I can sympathize with, having that, like, you feel like you give a lot to someone and they don't have that time for you as soon as they've gotten what they need. It's, not a nice feeling.
Especially when it's his own family as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not what you're referring to. I hope I give you the time of days.
Not you at all. Not you at all.
But no, it's his own family, and they're coming to him for advice, and he's being very gracious in giving it. He doesn't need to, and he does help them, or he certainly seems to help them. But they're still pretty cruel to him in just ditching his party, and I think making fun of him for not coming as well. Yeah. But they kind of settle down, and Fraser just accepts. It's fine. I'll spend the evening myself. Yeah. Well, with Eddie.
Yeah, with Eddie.
He and Eddie sit on the couch. Eddie gets his little belly scratches. Mm-hmm. It's a nice little ending to the episode. Yeah. It kind of Fraser accepting, okay, I help people. Yeah. That's what I do. And it's fine. I can spend the rest of the evening myself, but I can feel good knowing that I've helped people. Yeah. But yeah, it's a good episode. Yeah, it is good.
I think so.
It's got a nice bit of heart, especially the last 5 minutes or so when Fraser's helping everyone. Mm-hmm. It's nice to get a little bit of insight into each of the characters. Yeah, sort of where they're at in life. Yeah. Kind of rounding out the season, checking in on all the characters and how they're kind of going through their arcs. Yeah. In the same way that we did with My Coffee with Niles. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. Yeah, so it's good. I think this is a great episode. I marked it a little bit lower. Yeah. Than not. I gave it a 3. Yeah. I give it a 3 out of 5 cups. Mainly because it's not that funny. Yeah. There's a couple of good quips and jokes and whatnot, but overall it's more about the sort of storyline. And as you say, rounding off everyone's season. Yeah, for me it's good but not great. And I think that's kind of something that there's a few episodes coming up that I think suffer from that a lot. It's like you go in and you watch them and you enjoy them, but when you compare them to the previous episodes, so 3 cups for you? 3 cups for me, okay. I think, yeah. I'd give it 4 again. For 4? I mean, I do really enjoy this episode. I think it has good humor. I think some of the dialogue's very funny. Yeah. Lots of the good quips, especially when the characters are they're getting on at each other. They're arguing, but in a very funny way. There's lots of kind of quippy insults that are quite well written. Yeah. I think. Roz and Niles. Anything between Roz and Niles is always fantastic. Actually, watching this with my partner, she pointed out something that I had actually talked about in the previous episode, where somewhere out there in the multiverse, there is Niles and Roz could have actually made a great kind of end game couple. Yeah. Instead of Niles and Daphne. Yeah. The two of them actually could work really, really well. They do have that chemistry that could, in some ways, obviously it doesn't. We set up quite quickly that Niles and Daphne are friendly with each other. Is something there. Yeah. The kind of will they, won't they couple of the show. But I think it just as easily could have been Niles and Roz. Yeah. Yeah, the sort of aggression turned... Yeah. Enemies to lovers. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, love it. So, there you go. And that's it. That's season 2. Yeah. That is some season. I think it's great. Both season 1 and season 2 are great. I think season 2 on the whole, I think when we go back and look at the scores, I think it might come up a bit higher. I think it might do. I think it might be the best. Tip a little bit. Or certainly up to the top. Yeah. There's only one other season, I think, that has a chance of getting it higher. And I'm not going to spoil it. No, but there's... Okay. So, highlights? Of the disc, of the series?
I'm going to say, so highlight for this disc, I did mention earlier, in the Innkeepers, the scene with the eels is just, actually, the combination of the three kind of jokes about the eels, with Niles chucking the toaster in, Niles wielding the cleaver, trying to kill them all, just splashing around in the tank, and Daphne grabbing one of them and killing it by whacking its head off the counter. Though they just, crack me up. The eels are my highlight.
Okay. No, they're great. Mm-hmm. I quite agree with you.
What about you? Do you have another highlight in mind?
I really, really love the sword fight in An Affair to Forget.
Yeah.
I think the whole scene is great, but I think the sword fight is just a joy to watch.
It is. It really is.
David Hyde Pierce showing off his physical, his physical side, and just the whole situation is just so bizarre, and I love it. Mm-hmm. I love it to bits. I love that whole episode. Absolutely love it. What about the series as a whole? Do you have a favorite?
Do you favorite episode?
Do you have a favorite episode?
I'd probably have to give it to the Innkeepers.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't think of another episode that holds a candle to the Innkeepers, to be totally honest.
I would argue An Affair to Forget.
An Affair to Forget also. It is. I mean, I did also give it a 5, but it definitely.
But I completely agree. I think Innkeepers and An Affair to Forget.
Yeah, certainly stand above the others.
Yeah, pretty great.
Grand. There you go. We're running on in terms of recording time. It's already getting quite late, but I will have a very, very quick roundup of some of the Emmy wins from this year, because there were a few. So there were 12 nominations. Actually, last season when I talked about it, I realized that I forgot to mention the technical awards. Mm-hmm. The technical, what is it called? Technical Arts Emmys, something. Anyway, I forgot to include them. So that includes things like editing, sound mixing, stuff like that, which they did have. I put them up on Twitter. But yes, so a total of 12 Emmys in this season, 6 of which won. So Nathan Lane was nominated for Best Guest Actor for Fool Me Once, Shame on You, Fool Me Twice. Jo Beth Williams and Bebe Neuwirth were both nominated for Guest Actress for Adventures in Paradise Part 2. Part 1 and 2, I suppose, for Jo Beth Williams. Oh,
you say... I get confused every single time you say Bebe, and I think...
Yeah, sorry, Bebe Neuwirth.
Bebe Neuwirth plays Lilith.
Yes. Joe Keenan, the writer, was nominated for Best Writing for The Matchmaker.
Yeah, Matchmaker is good.
Roy Christopher, Sharon Viljoen, and Ron Olsen. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but they were nominated for Art Direction for The Innkeepers. Uh-huh. And Dana Mark McClure, Thomas J. Huth, David M. Weisser, maybe, and Robert Douglas were nominated for Sound Mixing for Adventures in Paradise Part 2. They were all nominated, didn't win, unfortunately. But we had first win for David Hyde Pierce for Supporting Actor.
Deserved.
First of many.
Absolutely deserved.
Again, Kelsey Grammer, first win for Best Lead Actor.
Deserved.
Of many. Ron Volk, who was the editor for The Matchmaker, won. I think he won multiple in other seasons as well. I think he won one in season 1 and in later seasons as well. David Lee, for directing The Matchmaker, also won Best Direction. And Chuck Ranbergen and Flet Giordano won Best Writing for An Affair to Forget, as we did mention when we were talking about the episode.
Totally
entirely deserved, all of them.
Yeah.
Congratulations to all of those, if any of you are there and listening.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to see if we could reach out to some of these names that aren't necessarily as prominent as like David Hyde Pierce or Kelsey Grammer, but people who were instrumental in making the show great, like the editors and some of the directors and writers and art designers.
Yeah. If anyone's listening, and
I tried to find them on Twitter, and I was hoping I'd be able to hit them up on Twitter, but can't find them. Oh well.
But similarly, if you are a Frasier fan and you want to, get involved with the podcast, if you want to help us out with our journey, let us know, because there's so much of it to love and so much of it to share as well.
Yeah.
And season 2, I think, is just a taste of what it has to offer.
Yeah.
Even if it is arguably the best, there's still so much more to come.
Oh, yeah.
So much more.
2 seasons down, 9 more to go.
9 more, yeah. And I'm loving every minute of it.
I am, absolutely.
I'm loving it. Yeah. Oh, dear.
Excuse me.
Knocking over my stuff.
I am.
Well, maybe we need to get an office or something. I don't.
Yeah.
We're currently recording in my little study.
It's fine.
It's fine. It suits.
We've got room for now.
And we've got a whiny dog to keep us company as well. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on these first 2 seasons. I wish you all good mental health. And we will see you after a short break next week for season 3.
Bye-bye.
Bye. This has been a Happy Brothers podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HappyBrosPod.
All opinions are our own, and as always, special thanks to Leo O'Donnell for the show's artwork.